Hi, I'm Amalie Schaefer with Systematic Excellence Consulting. This is the ClickUp Mastery YouTube channel, and today I'm going to go continue my series on ClickUp's free templates. And today I'm going to go over the product roadmap template. So let's go ahead and get it into our account. So I'm going to go, you can put it into any space, it's a folder. I'm going to put it into my template space. I'm going to click on the plus sign, go to new folder. We're going to go to templates, go to community, and then I'm going to click on roadmap. And this will tell you the different information of what is included with the template. And then you can either add it to your library or use template. Adding it to your library just means that it'll be available in your template library. But for now, I'm just going to click on use template. And it's going to ask me if I want to customize what I'm importing or if I want to import everything. I'm going to go ahead and import everything. I'm going to give this a name. I'm going to call this Roadmap 2 since I already have one in. And then we can import the due dates as is, or we can remap it. And maybe we want it to start on Monday. Maybe we'll skip weekends. And then we'll import all tasks as open. And I'm not going to import the archive. So I'm going to go ahead and use template. So now that's going to start coming into my account here. There we go. And so I'm just going to go back over here. Just refresh the screen so it pulls it in. Great. Now, okay, so we have our roadmap in here. So I'm just going to click on the folder level first so we can see what we have going on. So when I bring a new template in, especially one that has kind of a setup already, I want to go through it and see, okay, what features are in it? What do I need to add to it? You know, those kinds of things. So before you delete any of the tasks, let's just walk through what they have. So I'm at the folder level. Now they've set due dates for these lists. So Q1 is a list. You can see that down here, and there's a due date on the list, which I actually really like, especially when it is a start and stop sprint or project. Now to edit this, you just click on the information, the little I right there, and we can change the due date. So obviously these are old due dates. So if we did next week, maybe we want to change the start date to next week. So it's going to go ahead and give us, we'll put it on the 21st, and we'll say it's going to end on Friday. Obviously you can change this to whatever time frame that this will work for you. Maybe it's a 2-week thing or 3 weeks or whatever. Okay, so we can put that there. And then you also have a space where you can put some information. I might use this space for any instructions, links to folders that everyone's going to need. And you know, you can kind of go from there. You can also assign the actual list to somebody, like maybe it's the person who's managing it. And then the individual tasks get assigned to whoever's doing those tasks. So maybe you have a project manager or an operations person, and they're the ones managing the whole, like overseeing the whole thing. Also, what's really great is it shows you the calculated estimated time that's based on each of these tasks. And then any time tracked is in there as well. And you can set priority level. And then if you have comments or things like that, you can add attachments to the list. And so that's really helpful. Okay, so then the next thing we want to look at is what custom fields do they have? So right now we're looking at the folder level. So all we're seeing, well, let's look at the statuses. So we're looking at the folder level, and the only status we see right now is the idea status. And that's because they have it set where you're not showing empty statuses. So we can turn that on, and then we're going to see what the other statuses are at the folder level. So if I flip this around, we can see the idea at the top, and then we can see that it's the same statuses the whole way down, which is great. Now, maybe we don't want to see that. Maybe we just want to see at the folder level, maybe we just want to see whatever is active. So we can turn that off and not see the empty statuses, and then we'll just hit save on that. They do have a filter set here that this will show all the statuses, but because we have that show empty statuses turned off, it's not going to show us any statuses that don't have tasks in them. Okay, so that's the first thing. And then they have the due date, the priority, time estimates, and whatever team is working on this. So let's say, you know, you have different teams, then you can change and edit these by clicking there. And you can rename this, you can change the color, you can change the name of these to fit whatever you need. If you don't want this, you can also delete that field. Then they have the progress one, which I'll come back to in a minute, and then they have the type. So if these types don't fit, then you just hit the add edit options, just like with the team, and you can edit those options as well. And then they have sprint. So in the sprint, they have 4 different sprints. And if you need to, you know, edit that, then you can also do that. So you could just type in an additional option if you have more than 4 sprints, or if you want to change the colors, you can just go to the 3 dots and change the color of those. Okay, so I want to come back to the progress run. So they have a progress one, but what they don't have in here are any subtasks or a checklist that will show progress. So as you're starting to create this, what you'll need to do is add subtasks or checklist items based on whatever your process is. So if we just add a checklist here and I put item 1, item 2, item 3, like that, then what will happen is as we check these items off, it's going to show, well, it should show. There we go. It'll show progress. So if we came back and even if we added an additional item or 2 items, it will, apparently it's running a little slow this morning. Sorry about that. It'll show, so even if we added them after those 3 are completed, it'll then show that it's only 60% complete. The same thing will happen with subtasks. So what's important when you're coming in to edit this template to customize it for your own process is to know your process. Know what subtasks need to be in, what checklist items. I equate checklist items to be like what the person doing the individual tasks need to do, meaning like just kind of a QA checklist, like, okay, I did the 5 things that I need to for this particular task. Subtasks I use when multiple people are working on the same task. So if this is one product, but there are multiple subtasks that people need to complete to finish the product, I would use subtasks to delegate those things. And then you have the main task with specific due dates. So each subtask would have the due dates of when. So you would have your main task would have kind of the overall due dates. Like you're going to start the project on this date or this task on this date, and it's going to end on this date. And then the subtasks will fall within that time frame. So that's how I kind of figure out which one I need to use, whether it's a subtask or a checklist item. Now, the other thing you can use subtasks for, even if it's the same person working on it, is if there are specific things that need to get done and then reviewed, you could have a subtask or for like creating the thing, reviewing it, then, you know, making edits to it, something like that, where you're kind of handing it back and forth between 2 people potentially. You might want subtasks for that versus checklist items. Okay, so we went over what the different custom fields that they have. You can add more custom fields if you prefer, and go from there. So now let me go back to the folder level. So again, here they have the due dates. So you're going to want to set each quarter's due dates of, you know, when you'd be working on that. So obviously, if this would start in January, we can even backdate it to, let's see. And let's say this ends, oops, March. then you would just do that for all of the quarters. Now, the thing that they didn't do in here is they did not add a Q4. So if we wanted to add a Q4, we can go ahead and duplicate Q3. We can call it Q4. It's going to add it to our folder. So now we have all of our quarters here that we can see. We can set the due dates for each of those quarters. So like I said, the first thing I would do is know your process, know what subtasks or checklist items need to be in here. Then I'd come through and I'd edit the custom fields based on what it is that you need. So the team, the type, potentially sprints. If the sprints aren't necessarily something you do, you can remove that or keep it, whatever. Also the time estimates, you can update those, and you just click here to update whatever whatever that time is for you. And then if you have the time, in order to use time estimates, you do need that ClickUp set up. And then you can also do time estimate rollup, which then you can add time estimates to subtasks, and then it'll show the overall time estimate for that plus the subtask. So the main task plus the subtask. And then let's go over individual list. Yeah, let's go over. So if I go over to the list, so if you're looking at the list, I think for me, I would prefer to see all of the empty statuses in the list. So I just click on show, go to empty statuses. I go ahead and I flip this around so I can see it at the top, and I hit save. And so now I can see that the statuses are idea, under review, planned, and in progress. Now, if you want to see closed tasks, then you can also just turn that on by clicking close tasks on, and then let's hit save. Now, if you want to edit these because you want another step, maybe you want something like on hold or whatever, then you can edit those statuses by coming to the three dots, going over to list statuses, and we can use the folder statuses because when we pulled it in, this is what it's pulling from, is the statuses that were set at the folder level. And if we don't want to do that, we can hit custom and we can add in whatever statuses we want. Now, I have the not started statuses ClickUp on, which allows me to put tasks into a status that haven't been worked on. So like your ideas, that the idea status, it makes sense for that to be in a not started status because there's no action being taken on. It's more of a brainstorming place where you can kind of put those things. Active statuses are ones that are actually being started or, need to be started. And then you have done status, which is they're complete, but they might still be waiting on something, or they have a dependency that they just released and now someone else can work on the next step, but they won't show overdue, but they will unblock anything that it was blocking for a dependency. And then obviously closed is a closed status. So I'm going to keep the folder status and we're just going to keep that as it is. And then from here, you're going to want to, like I said, customize the statuses based on, whatever you have going on. And then the same thing for each of the quarters. If you, get it set up so you can see maybe you want to see all of the statuses plus closed. We want to flip it around so we can see the ideas at the top and then hit save. And you can edit the list due dates based on it being Q2, and then the same thing for Q3 and Q4. So one last thing I want to show you here is that they have sprints mentioned. So they've given this sprint 1 and 2, sprint 3, sprint 4. So it's fine to manage the sprints this way if that's how you want to do it, just by using a label. But if you want to actually use it, there are options to do sprints in ClickUp. And so what we're going to do is, in order to add a sprint, then we go to the plus sign, we say new sprint. And let's say we want 4 sprints. The first sprint date will start on the 21st and end on March 6th. So, and then you can edit we can edit the sprint settings by clicking on this, and it will tell us, however we want to, if we want to do estimates by time estimates or by points or by a custom field, when the sprint starts, how long they last. If you want to change it to 4 weeks, then we can change it to 4 weeks. And then we hit the save settings. Now it's going to adjust that for us. And then we can create a sprint. So now it's going to actually create those 4 sprints for us. And one thing I do want to show you is in the Click apps. Okay, so these are different Click apps that you can turn on. And this is where you have your sprints, your sprint points. So if we want to be able to have sprints in all spaces, then we just click all spaces. We can edit the settings. So that's going to look a lot like what we just did. So, maybe our sprints are 4 weeks. And then this is for the business level. That you'll automatically mark the sprint points done. This is a free account. I do all my videos based on the free account. And then you can also change the name of the sprint name, and then again, what you are using the sprint estimates based on. So we're just going to save the settings as is. The one thing I do want to show you is the sprint points. So you can edit the points to whatever value you want to give them. So maybe there's some things that are, 1 point. Maybe you do 1, 3, 7, 9, whatever. You can edit those here. And then you can also add new ones. I'm going to leave this how it is for now. Just be sure that you select whichever spaces you want this to apply to. So if it's all of them, then you want to have all. If not, you can just select whichever ones you want. The other thing I want to show you really quickly while we're in here is the time estimate. So it's just below there. You have the time estimate. You want to allow it in all spaces or whichever spaces you want, hours per day. And then you want to display the hours. And with a business level, you can estimate per assignee. And that's when you give one task multiple assignees. And then we have the time estimate roll up, where it will calculate all of the estimated time from subtasks and the main task and show that number on the main task. And then we have the time tracking. That's for just to have a time tracker in all of your tasks. And then the time tracking roll up will calculate all the time from all the subtasks and the main task and show that at the top of the task next to the time estimate. Okay, so let's go back to where we were so I can show you the sprints. So if you're going to use the sprints, so they've shown up here, what I would do then is once you've labeled whatever the sprints are, you're going to want to move them into the sprint list. Now the sprint list has pulled the statuses from the folder level, just like these other lists have. So I'm just going to select these. I'm going to go to move tasks, and I want to move them to my sprint 1. Now, if you wanted to, you could duplicate the tasks or have linking tasks between your Q1 and your sprint if you wanted to versus moving them. That might look something like, so if this is, we could duplicate this. Put these in. We'll put it in sprint 2. So now it's going to duplicate those tasks there. Okay, and if you wanted to link them to the other task, then we could select this one, and if you click on this little star, I guess that's what it is, then we can go down to our folder. We can go down to our second sprint, and then we can select the task that matches it. So now they're linked together. And so then you'll be able to see like what the relationship is. Now it's not going to necessarily update the two, but maybe there's information that you need, that you want to track just here that's separate than the information that you want to track in Sprint 2. So this is what Sprint 2 looks like. And again, it pulled the same statuses over. So if we flip this around, and then you can see that it's linked to that other one. So maybe, like I said, there's other things that you want to, other information you want to track here versus in your Q1 list. And then here's where the sprint points are. And then you would just select, and then if you want to change the settings of that, you would just click here and you can change the settings of those points if you wish to. Okay, so we'll go ahead and give these sprint points, and then there we go. I didn't save the view, so we want to see empty, we want to see closed. Flip it around. And you can change the statuses of the sprints as well. They don't have to be the same, but maybe you want to keep them the same, and that's fine. And then from here, you want to move them through the process. So if this is, and maybe putting it, I don't know, in progress seems like it might be better, up, you know, up top. If you don't like the order of it, we can just move them around. So list statuses, you know, once they're pulled from the folder, we'd have to edit them at the folder level actually. But doing that at the folder level is easy. You just click this, and then we're going to go to statuses. And then maybe we want in progress there. Okay, planned, maybe planned is first or some, oops, I don't know why. There we go. Whatever. You can, it wasn't doing it fast enough. It was taking its time. So you can edit them here, hit save, and then that will update it across all of the lists that we have in here. So now for this, like I said, you can give it your sprint points. So what this is showing is that this sprint is not started, and it's telling you how many points it's worth. So the points, you want to kind of equate it to help to hours of how long something's going to take so that you can see workload and know how many of these are you going to be able to work on at one time during this particular sprint. And that goes to time estimates, how many people you have working on it, all of those things. And then, so this will tell you, and each sprint will tell you, so this one's not started, it's supposed to start today. We don't have any points to it. And we know that it's going to go from the 21st to the 20th, or sorry, February 21st to March 20th. And then that will give you more of a focus, which I think is really great. Now, the last thing I want to go over is at the folder level. They have some lists available here that they've already added. So the first one is the task list that we were just looking at. And then they have it organized by team. And all they did was they group by custom field team that they created. So if you added a different team, then it would then put that once you added that label, then it would organize it by that as well. And so they've added that list view, which is kind of cool. Like you can see what each of your teams is working on, you know, what sprint it is and all of that. Then they also have the board, the workload, and then they have a calendar view, and they have the calendar and the schedule. Now, this is going to, for the calendar, I think probably I would use it more for like just seeing what we have going on all together. And then the schedule view, so if we click on that, this is going to show us a little bit more information about what is happening as far as the tasks. They have that set so you can see more information. So we can see the priority, the time estimate. We can also see our sprint here. And if we went over into the next month, then we can see when the sprint 1 ends, when sprint 2 begins. And then you can turn those things on. So if you want to see more than that, if you want to see the assignee, maybe you want to see time tracked, you can add, if you want to see subtasks, you can see sprint points. Maybe we want to see sprint points. All of that's going to start to add whatever information you've added to those tasks will show up here in those tasks. So schedule is more looking at what everyone has going on, whereas the calendar is looking at kind of the bigger view of things. And then they also have 2 Gantt charts here, and they have it broken out in different ways or organized in different ways. So you can use this. I don't typically use the Gantt chart for my own personal, like I don't personally use it, but I know some people that do and they really like it. So you have that option with the free account. This one's organized by month and day, so you can kind of see the bigger picture. And then this one is for the weekly view, broken down so you can actually see what's happening on each day and each week. And it also includes the sprints and then what tasks are happening during the sprints as well. They also have the timeline view, the workload, and the table view in here. So I hope that was helpful. If you are looking for a way to quickly get started and get organized, having a product roadmap in ClickUp, I highly recommend this free template, and then you can customize it. If you do need help or assistance getting it customized, there will be a link in the description that you can click and we could get on a call and get this customized for your particular needs. And then if not, this is a great way to get started. Again, my name is Amalie Schaefer. I'm with Systematic Excellence Consulting, and thank you so much for being here.